Well, hello everyone. It's Jennifer McGuire. I hope you're having a good day. Well, today I went overboard again. I created a bunch of card examples. I kind of got carried away with this technique because I really enjoyed it. And this is all about sentiment spotlights. So doing things on your cards to make your sentiment stand out or look extra special. And I have 3 different ideas to share with you along with a bunch of examples. So let's get started with the first technique, and this is to cut out a strip of your stamped panel to make it pop up and stand out. This works well with word die cuts and stamped sentiments. So you can use either, or you can use them both together like I did here. So for my first cards, I used the BLUE.altenew Majestic Mistletoe stamp set. This is a new one. It's a large stamp set, and these images build together to create something beautiful. It's not really layering because not all the pieces stamp on top of each other, but rather kind of build together to create an image. So this one is very easy to use if you ever struggle with layering images. This is one that I would recommend. I'm using my Misty today simply because I plan to make a bunch of cards. You can use an acrylic block for these stamp sets, and I normally would if I were just making one, but since I'm making multiples, I'm going to go ahead and use the stamping tool. So I've started with the first layer, and I'm following the key that is on the packaging of the BLUE.altenew stamp set. They also have keys on their website, so you can always find them there too. Those guides or keys are very helpful. Now the first color I'm using here is the BLUE.altenew Parrot ink. This is a beautiful green color. And I am doing this on Nina white cardstock, but you really could use any cardstock for this. And again, since I'm making more than one card, I will do this stamping on all the pieces before moving on to the next step. Okay, so now for the next step, I'm adding the next image. You can see here that it kind of fits together with the bottom image, but doesn't really layer. Very easy, and it's very forgiving. You don't have to position it just right, but again, you can check out the key for some help. Now I'm moving to the next darker color on here. This is the BLUE.altenew Olive ink. I really like the BLUE.altenew inks because they are available in sets of 4, where there's a light, medium, dark, and extra dark, so there's no guessing to it. Here I double stamped it just to make it a little bit darker. These BLUE.altenew inks are also available in cubes, so if you want to save some money, you can get the cubes instead of the full ink pads. Next, I decided to stamp my second mistletoe image. So I'm using the same images I just showed you, same colors, to do a second right up next to it. After I've stamped that, I can go back and add the details to each of these pieces. So here is like a layering detail image for the darker color stamped image that I put there. For this one, I'm using an even darker green. This is the moss color, and I'm stamping that right on there. And you can see this one adds just some detail to some of the leaves. So this is a layering image in there. Very easy to line up. So I did that on both of my mistletoe pieces. Okay, so on 2 of my cards, I decided to do red berries just because I wanted to. And on 2 of the cards, I decided to do like white or cream colored berries. So first I'm doing the red. This is the BLUE.altenew Coral Berry ink, which is my favorite of all the BLUE.altenew inks. And I actually stamped it a few times just to darken it up. Now for the cream colored berries, I used BLUE.altenew Buttercream Yellow for the first layer. That's a really soft yellow. Now, there is another layering image for the berries that creates like a little shadow on it. And this I did with a slightly darker red ink. And then on the ivory colored berries, I did actually a light gray ink, just because I didn't want to make my berries even more yellow. So I decided just to use a light gray because then it would just kind of create a shadow on it. So you can always use a light gray ink for your layering images. It works out great often. I did decide to go and add one more mistletoe piece in the bottom corner just to balance things out, and I did it in the same colors in the exact same technique. So now it's time to create a spotlight for our sentiment. Since there's so much stamping going on, I'm going to do that popped up strip and have the sentiment be on it so that it becomes the focal point. I'm using these word dies today. BLUE.altenew has 3 script word die sets. The first one's on the left, number 2 is in the middle, and the new holiday word die set is on the right. And I'm going to use a few of these in different cards today so I can have a few different themes or occasions ready to go when I need them. I'm also using the BLUE.altenew Happy Holidays stamp set. This is a new one. I really like the larger images, but today I'm using the smaller sentiments. They work well as kind of a sub-sentiment underneath a word die or on the inside of a card, but I'm going to use them right under the word die today. So now I need to plan where I'm going to create the strip that pops up. So I've laid my die and my stamp down, and I'm drawing a little pencil line below it and a little pencil line kind of above it. And that will give me a guide of how much to cut out from our stamped panel. Now I know many of you are probably going to scream here when I cut through all this stamping, but I promise it's definitely worth it. I'm cutting 2 at once just to save some time. And I'm cutting along those pencil lines. It doesn't have to be exact. My word die will hang off this strip, but I just wanted to cut a little strip that will be able to spotlight our sentiment. So I'm keeping all of my pieces together here. Now to make that middle strip where we're going to put the sentiment stand out even more, I'm going to mat it with a matching cardstock. You can either use a matching cardstock or create your own by rubbing the ink pad against white cardstock, but I actually had a scrap that matched nicely. So I'm putting just a thin mat at the top and the bottom so it sticks out just on the top and bottom, and that will allow that middle strip to stand out more. You can skip the mat if you want to. Now I'm adhering the 2 other pieces onto a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch white note card, leaving that space in the middle. Now I have a little sentiment die cut here. I'll talk about that in a moment, but I'm going to go ahead and stamp my little sub-sentiment underneath it. This is from that BLUE.altenew Happy Holiday stamp set that I showed you earlier. I stamped that right along our spotlight panel. Now I can add some foam tape to the back of this. Be sure to add enough so it doesn't get crushed when it goes through the mail. And I'm just going to pop this right into the opening on our card. And now the images are continuous over that spotlight piece, and the spotlight piece is popped up from the back of the card. Now for the die cut thanks, I used some BLUE.altenew gold foil paper for the top die cut, and I stacked some white die cuts underneath it to give it dimension. Now if you look here, I used a piece of scrap paper. This was something I stamped that I ended up not using. I save all of those because those you can use to die cut any words or any die cuts that you want to stack on top of each other for dimension, so that you just glue them together and nobody will ever know that it was scrap paper that you messed up stamping on. So I'm just using my quickie glue pen to glue several white scrap thanks die cuts on top of each other with the gold die cut on top. This will give it some nice dimension and pop it up even more. Now this gold foil paper is really nice because it's like a mirror, a gold mirror, but you could use gold embossing powder if you want a different type of metallic finish. After I've stacked all the die cuts, I'm putting some strong multi-medium adhesive on the back, and I'm going to glue this right onto our card. So now we have a spotlight on the thanks and the stamp sentiment. Now I did stamp the berries earlier, but I decided I wanted some more dimension. So I'm actually going over the stamped berries with nuvo drops. For my white card, I used the ivory nuvo drops. This is kind of like, they look like little pearl drops. And I'll set that aside and let that dry. Now on the red card, I used nuvo drops that are jewel drops, and they're actually a clear with a tint, and I used the rose tint so that it would just accentuate the color underneath. I really like how these nuvo drops add a lot of dimension. Now I set these aside and let them dry for a long time until they were completely dry, and I decided to add some more in a different color right on top, just to add some more interest. So on the red berries, I did just a little touch of the ivory color along the side. It looks like a little C on the side of it that I put, just kind of rubbed the tip on it. And this just adds little highlights to it and just, I don't know, it adds more interest and really made those berries pop. Now on the white berries on the other card, I added like a champagne color to it, and it really made those pop too. So you can layer different colors together of these nuvo drops, just make sure they dry between. So let's take the closer look at these finished cards for this first technique of spotlight sentiments. You can see the layered berries on this one and the nice shiny gold sentiment with the stamp sentiment underneath it. And it really pops up there and draws attention to the sentiment. Now the stamp sentiment is from this BLUE.altenew Happy Holiday set that I showed you earlier. And on this card on the left, I used the Wishes die cut from the BLUE.altenew Holiday Script die set. So one of my cards says thanks and one says wishes. I like to have a few different occasions on hand. Now here are the white versions, and I'll show you the berries up close on these. So I did the white with a little bit of like a champagne color nuvo drop touch on it. It's very subtle. In real life you can see it a bit more, but it adds interest to the berries. And again, I made one that says wishes and one that says thanks. And that little strip right there, it pops up to draw the attention to the sentiment. Now it's time for the second idea of a spotlight sentiment. This time I'm using a hidden die cut, but I'm spotlighting the stamp sentiment with it. So for this, I made a few different examples using the BLUE.altenew Layered Laurels stamp set. This is another new one that's beautiful. Now this one really doesn't layer as much as it builds. So it really is easy to line up. It doesn't have to be just perfect. You're really just building a bunch of different colors of leaves on top of each other. So I went ahead and did the larger laurel image from this stamp set onto white cardstock, and I did 3 different color combinations, some greens, blues, and browns, and I'll list those colors at the top of the screen here as I'm working. Now I'm going to show you how I did the smaller layered laurel next to it, so you can see how easy these are to line up. Now I am going to speed this up just to save some time, and because these are very easy to stamp, so it really isn't necessary to show just everything. I will stamp the stem first in the darkest color, and I'll do a few in green, a few in blue, and a few in brown. Since I have this all set up, it's very fast to do these. I actually only created 3 of these into final cards for today's video, but I have all those extra stamped panels set aside for when I have some time to make additional cards. So now I'm moving on to this second image here. This is actually the one that I'm going to do in the lightest ink. You can do any order you want with this one. That's what's great about it. And again, I am following the guide or the key that BLUE.altenew provides for this stamp set. And I went ahead and completed all the layers on all the panels. Now these white cardstock pieces are 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 to start with. That's what I always start with. And I trimmed 1/4 of an inch off the right and the bottom. And I'm keeping all those little strips. Those little strips are great for sentiment strips. So save those scraps. Just keep them in a mug and they'll be on hand anytime you need them. Okay, now it's time to do the die cutting in the center. So I'm using those BLUE.altenew word script dies to cut a word from the center of my stamping. Now be sure after you run it through your die cut machine that you keep all the little pieces because we're going to need them to create the card in the end. I also am going to die cut 4 of the words from some scrap cardstock that matches the card. This will allow us to stack it up and add some colorful dimension. I'm gluing our stamped panel onto a green note card, and now we can add our word die cuts right in the center stacked up. I'm first going to fill in that opening with my quickie glue pen and put in one of the green die cuts. After that's in, I'm going to pop in those little leftover white pieces from the word love that we did from the stamped panel. So I'm just going to pick them up with the tip of my craft knife and pop them into place just like a puzzle piece. You could skip adding those little pieces, but I really think it helps creating a continual image. Okay, so now I can stack 3 other green love die cuts right on top of this one using my quickie glue pen. You can see they just kind of pop right on top of each other, press them firmly into place, and then add the next one. Now this does take a little bit of time, but it definitely is worth it to give that beautiful dimension to that word die cut in the center. Now I liked using the green cardstock for the stacked layers so that when you kind of tilt this card, you get that green underneath the stamped piece. Now I can go ahead and add the stamped love right on top and check out that continual pattern with the green showing from the side. That green really helps to make it pop and stand out a little bit more. Really love the look of doing a spotlight for the word die cut like that. I did decide to add berries to this, not necessarily because it's realistic looking, but because I wanted some dimension and pop of color. On the green card, I actually used some metallic pink drops, so it just is something fun. Now, I did do drops on the other cards too, and added a white heat embossed sentiment strip on some colored cardstock that matched the note card. So here you can see the green showing from the side. It's a nice spotlight to that word love with that sentiment strip right across it. Now for the sentiment on this one that says sending crafty hugs your way, I used an older BLUE.altenew stamp set that I've used in many videos, and this is the BLUE.altenew Crafty Friends stamp set. I really like a lot of the sentiments in this one. I wasn't sure if I would like the pool and the brown colored leaves, but I thought it was something fun and different. I added some silver berries to this one. Oh, and I also drew like a glitter pen right down the center of the leaves, just for a little more interest also. Here is the brown version, and you can see that little bit of glitter pen on the center of the leaves there, and I used some copper drops on that one. Now the sentiment on that brown card says from our home to yours, and it's from this new BLUE.altenew with gratitude stamp set. There are some beautiful sentiments in this and also some unique layering images. So you can stamp both of those images into the outline leaf and it colors it in. Really fun and unique. Okay, now to the third idea for a spotlight sentiment. This time I'm doubling up vellum. And that's a great way to draw attention to your sentiment when you have some stamping going on in the background. Now for these cards, I use the BLUE.altenew Winter Rose stamp set. This is a beautiful layering stamp set that actually stamps 3 different size flowers and then some leaves also. Now the little layering image has some little pixelated dots, which is really fun for creating beautiful blending. I also like the sentiment in here that says you define kindness. I think that's a beautiful sentiment, and I'm going to be using that one a lot. Now I'm going to skip the layered stamping because it's very basic. I created 2 layered flowers, one in a coral color and one in a pool color. And I wanted to add my stamp sentiment and kind of draw attention to it. So I'm using vellum. I'm stamping on the vellum with my black VersaFine ink pad, and I'm going to silver heat emboss it. You could use Versamark if you want to, but I like how fine of a pigment ink this black one is, so I decided to use it. After I put silver embossing powder on it, I'll heat set both of these. Now I could have done this silver heat embossed image right on top of our flower, but it gets kind of lost. By doing it on the vellum is a little opaque, so it kind of blocks some of the flower and allows the sentiment to stand out more. But if you put a second piece of vellum behind it, double it up, it's even better. It really draws more attention to the sentiment. So I'm actually going to double up the vellum strips. I just cut 2 strips to the same size, and one of them has the sentiment heat embossed. So I'm going to go ahead and add the first strip without the sentiment, and I'm just wrapping the ends around onto a piece of double-sided tape on the back. Once I have that wrapped around, I'll go ahead and add the heat embossed sentiment vellum strip on top of that. Now there are different types of vellum out there. This is a very heavy weight. It's about 43 pounds, so it is very thick already. If you have thinner vellum, you could even triple it if you wanted to. So here I'm putting some adhesive on the back of my panel. I'll wrap that second strip over it and add it onto a colored note card. So my final 2 cards are here. I did them both the same. Doubled up the vellum with the You Define Kindness sentiment right on it. It's beautiful in real life, kind of hard to see in the video. I did add some silver nuvo drops just as little accents, and a little glitter pen to the center of the rose and the leaves just to add a little bit of shimmer. Now this is another one that you can mass produce. Just do lots of layering at once and do different colors for each card. It'd be a great card set to give to someone as a gift too. So there you have 3 ways to do spotlight sentiments. One to spotlight the sentiment with a strip cut out and popped up. One to do a hidden die cut word with a sentiment strip. And one to use vellum to kind of make your sentiment stand out even more. I hope you like these projects. If you're interested in the products, I link them below in the YouTube description, but go to my blog for more photos and more information. In the middle are 2 other videos that might be interesting to you. Thanks for watching. I hope you'll come back soon and have a wonderful week.